From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell and I'm in Northamptonshire in England, where, well, the ECB, the England Cricket Board, now need a new chief executive, alongside a whole host of other appointments they've made recently. They have just got a white ball coach secured from the international women's game, which is a very interesting development. And I won't be here next week because I'm going to be off to commentate on the French Open tennis, but I'm sure you will be put in excellent hands nevertheless.
I'm Brett Sprigg here at the ABC in Sydney, where it's been a sombre week since learning of the tragic and sudden passing of Andrew Symonds, which I know we'll talk about later on. But on the field, next summer is taking shape. It sounds like Cricket Australia wants to start its one-day internationals earlier in the day and finish before night time to allocate more broadcast time to the Big Bash. Whether such a move is able to revive that competition, time will tell. But I'm liking the fact that we won't have these 50-over games finishing so close to midnight because nobody wants that. Nobody wants that, do they?
Well, it does happen in India all the time with the IPL. Hi, I'm Charu Sharma, once again in Bangalore, where it just can't stop raining. There's some pre-monsoon madness and everything is flooded, including our basement, by the way. So we have the midnight drama trying to get our cars away from there. Oh, gosh. It's terrible, of course. No golf, no tennis, terrible stuff. But looks like we have to deal with another tragedy in the world of cricket. Terrible about Andrew Symonds. And, of course, English cricket, I don't know, Alison, just can't seem to get its act together. What's going on here?
Let's hope they can get their act together in time for that first test match, because that squad came out as well this week. Some interesting names, a lot of people saying, there's a bit of same going on, but we'll have time to talk about that in the show as well. Of course, reflect upon Andrew Symonds, because that's just too shocking in news, and so soon off the back of Shane Warne as well, and Rod Marsh even before that. Well, if the legend that is Sachin Tendulkar describes you as an inspiration for all the young kids aspiring to be cricketers, you've made a pretty enormous impact. He has scored more test runs, more ODI runs, more ODI hundreds, and overall hundreds than any other batter in New Zealand history. He's recently retired after a long and distinguished international career. It is the ex-captain and now former New Zealand bat, Ross Taylor. Ross, welcome to Stumped. Hope you are well. That was a nice tweet from Sachin Tendulkar, wasn't it? And you replied to him in Hindi, which was a classy touch. What did those words mean to you?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I must admit my Hindi translator, Ish Sodhi, has been very good to me over the years in translating a few messages, as well as replying to Sehwag and co and some other banter as well. But no, Sachin's been an inspiration to a lot of players and young kids growing up, and I was no different. He was one of my favourite players, along with Mark Wall growing up. So to have played against him a few times and to obviously have got that message is something I'll never forget.
I know you announced your international retirement back in December, but it was only last month when you played your last game. We spoke to you on Stumped, 2 years ago, to mark your 100th test match and 100 international appearances across all three formats as well, which does speak volumes about the longevity of your career over those 16 years. And you said at the time, the R word was cropping up. I didn't say it, you did. But former players advised you, that you are a long time retired. So having played until the age of 38, what then made you decide that, now was the time to stop?
I think everyone talks about the right time. I think if you go on a little bit longer, I probably would have had to have committed to play the next World Cup. And it just gives the next bunch of guys a few more opportunities to play. COVID probably put a halt to that. It was pretty disjointed. It was, everyone in all parts of the world were affected in different ways. And, when you're getting older and not being able to play as often, it probably, made me retire a little bit earlier than I probably would have liked. But no, I'm really comfortable with my decision. I've enjoyed the time at home, but in saying that, I'm still looking forward to playing a few tournaments around the world in the coming months.
You came over to England, didn't you, quite a young age, and had a very formative experience at Lord's, which seems quite fitting as we're talking to you only a week or so before New Zealand will take on England at Lord's. But tell us about that.
I didn't really know much about Lord's, to be fair. I heard about the slope, but coming from a population of 20,000 to the population of London was definitely an eye-opener. But no, it was a good baptism of fire to really pursue the career that I wanted to live and breathe cricket, to play at Lord's, inspired me to want to come back here and probably play county cricket and hopefully one day for New Zealand. So I was able to tick off a lot of those goals. Wasn't able to get on the honours board, but a few family members have gone through the the MCC tour over the years, and apparently my name's come up a few times for hitting the 6 over the members' side. So it couldn't have been all too bad.
You know, I was actually on one of those tours just yesterday, Roscoe, and your name did come up. You're absolutely right.
So they are right.
They're still milking it, yeah.
Yeah, just obviously there's not many stories to tell, but I thought my family were just making it up. So
No,
I'm glad
true.
that someone could actually say that.
Your rise to the captaincy did happen pretty quickly, of course. 2010, you had your first taste of the national captaincy. Talk us through that and I guess how you coped with that responsibility of that role initially.
Yeah, I suppose it was. I got it by default a little bit. I was vice captain. McCullum and Vittori were on paternity leave, and yeah, I went away. It was a strange one having to captain players that are older than you and significantly older than you. I'm half Samoan. And you always were told to respect your elders, and it was really hard. I found it really hard to tell older people who were, in some cases, a decade older than you, what to do. But no, I enjoyed the challenge. I thought it brought the best out of my batting. But yeah, I suppose it was good. It was good fun. Had some good results. But yeah, I guess history will probably say something different.
Can I take you back to 2008? It was a very special year for all of us because that's when the IPL started. And give us some of your early memories, because you mentioned the population of London. I presume that even Bangalore and everything else about India was not easy to get used to, Ross, for you.
I was just ecstatic to go over. No one really knew what to expect. I didn't play in that first game. I can remember Martin Crowe said to me, Brendon McCullum was on the Red Bulls. He said he's either going to get a duck or 80. I mean, Brendon ended up getting 158, which probably helped us out. But for me, being a youngster, sharing a dressing room with guys I'd watched on TV, Dravid, Kumble, Callis, Boucher, guys that were legends of the game. I think that helped my cricket, and I think it helped New Zealand cricket. I think it broke down the walls, the aura that these people had. We bet Mumbai. Sachin wasn't playing, but at the old Wankhede Stadium, I can remember hitting Harbhajan for a couple of sixes. I didn't know which way the ball was going, so I just slogged them. A couple came out of the middle, and one landed on the roof. So, looking back on it, obviously, once you're retired, you have fond memories. But at the same time, I was pretty naive and pretty raw back then, and it probably wasn't a bad thing with everything else going around to have not had the full appreciation of what was going on.
I'm sure you got your due in the IPL later, but for the first year, I do apologize. I don't think we overpaid you at all, but I'm glad you came. and talking
love
about
love of the game.
Did you not? Yeah, thank you. Did you not clear the Chinnaswamy Stadium as well? Because I mean, I remember, all of us were marveling at your bat speed. It was fabulous. And tell us about some other memories. Did the IPL help international cricket as much as it perhaps did your career?
I think I get messages on my Twitter and Instagram. I still have the 6th or 7th longest 6. I don't know if it counts because it was off a fellow Kiwi, Jacob Warren. I remind him of that every now and then. But as I said before, I think it definitely helped New Zealand cricket out. I think the way, all these players who were playing in other teams we used to put the Australia, South Africa on a pedestal. But once we saw them in action, yes, they were better than us, but they weren't that far ahead of us. So we knew what we needed to do to get better. So when we did play them, it sort of broke down their walls. And, when Callis and Boucher, who you played with for years, would end up sledging you, but then laugh afterwards, sort of softened how things were. And I think for the benefit of cricket, I think, all that other stuff actually helped out. And I don't think New Zealand cricket's probably the only one. I think a lot of other countries would have benefited from IPL. And, right to this day, there's a lot of players who are benefiting. New Zealand cricket are in fantastic shape. And I think a lot of that's got down to, having world-class players, but them getting the experience of rubbing shoulders with these players that wouldn't have happened before IPL.
And of course, we would seem to think that that's a high point in your career, but would you consider it so, winning the World Test Championships, the first one, always special?
Yeah, I think so. I think to win the inaugural one, People keep telling me, why do you mention it? But after the heartbreak of 2019, I never thought I'd get to play another World Cup.
Mention it.
Yeah, that's why I might as well bring it up because it normally always comes up anyway. To come so close, it was a fantastic final at the home of cricket. You're flying back home with all the emotions of the game and the what ifs. You also think, oh, that's probably my last chance of playing in a World Cup, playing in a World Cup final. To 2 years later, being in the same country, obviously different opposition, but in a different format. And then being there at the end with Kane and hitting the winning runs, something dreams. I couldn't have scripted it any better. Still get goosebumps thinking about it now.
So the Test series about to start, England versus New Zealand. What did you make of the appointment of Brendon McCullum to the England Test team role? And obviously your relationship had its ups and downs throughout the year. I'm interested, do you sort of exchange messages at the moment? Has he had any message from you or vice versa?
Yeah, I sent him a message once he got it to congratulate him. 2 weeks ago, if you would have told me Brendon was going to coach England, I would have said no chance. Then to coach the white ball team, I probably would have said, oh, maybe. But the Test team, it's a complete surprise to a lot of New Zealanders. But it's no surprise that he interviewed well. I think his combination with Stokes is going to be, that's going to be an interesting one. They'll be, very attacking, very similar-minded people, I think. And no, I'm just excited to see how they go. I think obviously because it's my first series away, I was going to watch it with interest. But I think the added dimension with Baz being the coach, if there's any person that knows our team the best, it's going to be Baz. So I'm sure he's going to be passing on some inside information. So I'm sure in some ways it's going to be his hardest test, but it could also be his easiest in the way he can scout the team and know, the nuances about how different individuals play. And he's very good. He's very close with a lot of those players too. So I'm sure that first morning of that test and when they do see each other, it's going to be a bit strange for everyone. But I think he's going to do a fantastic role, and I look forward to seeing how him and Stokes and the rest of the team develop over the years.
Congratulations on your international career, Ross, and we've really enjoyed chatting to you about it here on Stumped.
Thanks for having me.
Next on Stumped, England's men's cricketers might not have played a match for a couple of months, but goodness me, it has been a busy time off the field. They've got a new Test captain in Ben Stokes, new Test coach, as we've been speaking about, in Brendon McCullum, and there's been even more this week. Tom Harrison resigned as chief executive. James Anderson and Stuart Broad recalled to the Test squad for these first matches against New Zealand, and has now been the appointment of the new white ball coach, which is Australia's highly successful women's coach, Matthew Mott, on a 4-year deal. Brett, has that come as a bit of a shock to Australians to lose Matthew Mott?
Yeah,
to the
personally,
English of
I'm
all
sad.
countries.
Yes, because England's gain is certainly Australia's loss, Ali. So personally, yeah, I've been lucky enough to work with Motty on our ABC coverage of WBBL, where his unique insights as national coach have been tremendous. And he's just a really lovely bloke. I'm happy for him. Obviously, he's a popular coach, very team-first driven, very open to the evolution of the game and certain game plans, which are always, a cornerstone of white ball, particularly T20 cricket. So he would already have an idea of what sort of brand of cricket he wants this England team to play, and indeed who should be a part of its best 11. He presided over 3 World Cup wins, 3 Ashes, that run of 26 straight one-day international wins, of course, for the Aussie women as well. And let's not forget, he has some previous coaching experience in the UK. He was in charge of Glamorgan some years ago before the Australian gig. He also won a Sheffield Shield with New South Wales before that here in Australia. But it's such a different scenario, Ali, I guess, to the Test side of things, where there's a bit of a rebuild happening. England is already reasonably successful as the defending 50-over champions, currently ranked second, also ranked second in T20s. Of course, interestingly, Matthew Mott's first big assignment in charge will be the T20 World Cup later this year in his home country. That's a great place to start. But yeah, a bit of a shock, but certainly well-deserved.
Yeah, as regards the administration, Claire Connor steps up as interim CEO for the ECB. So that's quite a significant move as well. She's the busiest woman in world cricket with her ICC role. I think her ECB women's role, she will step back a bit, from that in order to take on the CEO role in that interim period. But I would not be surprised at all if she put her hat in the ring for that role full time, and she would be absolutely qualified to step up. But there will be many, many other candidates as well. Or will there? Because, of course, English cricket is still in a little bit of a turbulent period, and there is still long-standing division over the 100. There is still the aftermath and the ongoing fallout from the Azim Rafiq affair and everything ECB is needing to do to tackle discrimination in the game. So there's a lot still churning away behind the scenes, that's for sure. Brett, I did want to turn to the very sad news from Australia, more tragic news with the loss of Andrew Symonds, who was another dynamic cricketer in his day who had become popular, behind the mic, doing some commentary as well in recent years too. He was only 46 years old. Just tell us about the response down under.
Yeah, it's been, as you can imagine, extremely deeply felt, given the other recent losses, in particular Shane Warne from the same era. Look, Andrew Symonds typified Australian laconicism. He could smack the ball around, he bowled spin, he bowled pace, he was a world-class fielder. Before we truly came to appreciate world-class fielders, he loved a beer, which is always endearing to the Australian public, but perhaps not so to the Cricket Australia hierarchy at times. It's a shame that the so-called Monkeygate scandal hastened his exit from international cricket, but the development no one ever talks about is that he and Harbhajan Singh would go on to become teammates in the IPL, and they got on quite well in the end. So there was a happy ending there, even if the legacy of that saga serves to remind us that Cricket Australia was prepared to put its business interests ahead of the welfare of one of its players. It's so disappointing that his career was tainted by that through no fault of his. But Aussie cricket fans remember Andrew Symonds so fondly. Certainly Queenslanders do. I was up in Queensland when the news broke, and there were 40,000 fans at a rugby league match I was at that observed a pure moment's silence. The respect was always there for him. And I just feel for his family, obviously, and his children are only still quite young, primary school age. But again, it's a loss that the cricket community will feel together.
Yeah, well, I've heard Harbhajan Singh particularly recall some fond memories later on when they came to be colleagues. And I think all of India particularly appreciated his enormous skill, his genius really with the bat. And he was a pretty handy bowler as well. And Brett, you mentioned his fielding. So an all-round cricketer, one of the best in the world. The fact that he went so soon and after some other icons too, it's truly tragic.
Well, that is it for Stumped this week on All India Radio. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter. We're at BBCWS Sport and use the hashtag BBC Stumped. And check us out on YouTube as well. Go to the BBC World Services YouTube channel. My thanks to Charu Sharma and to Brett Sprigg and, of course, to our special guest, Ross Taylor. And to you for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.